Hi, and welcome to Answers News for January 17th, 2019. And
It's 2019.
yeah, it's been that for like 17 days.
Which century were you born in?
The 20th.
20th century.
Yes. I'm not 19, that's for sure.
Okay, so, you're going to welcome our studio audience?
I am, yeah, just give me a chance. All right, so we have a wonderful studio audience with us today, so make yourselves known. Let's hear it. Come on. There you go.
You know, even though January, February are the real low months at the Creation Museum and the Ark, 91% of people who come to the Ark and the Creation Museum are outside Kentucky, actually, so they don't tend to travel in January and February, and it's winter and there's snow on the ground right now.
Yeah, and rain
and
right now.
Not very nice days, and even so,
people still vacation here.
Well, we still got what? I'm looking in the audience here, 1.2 million people. You know, I'm just used to talking about millions for some reason. Must be. Oh, we talk about evolution all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a fluff and stuff time to start with. And I'm going to get online here with my Facebook and be able to follow along and follow the comments. And we like people to tell us where they're from. And lots of people are jumping online.
Yep.
I see that.
Yep.
And there's somebody here from Minnesota. We have people from Minnesota, don't we, in the audience here?
Yep.
And people from
Wisconsin,
Maine,
England.
someone from Canada. Avery, our token millennial, is actually in the audience. People will recognize Avery's name. She's sitting in the audience. She does that so she can learn how to do things properly. So when she's up here.
Just don't pay attention to him.
Okay, so the first fluff and stuff item, before we get into the real items, I saw this article and I thought it'd be interesting to talk about it because an alien-looking, gigantic, rotating ice disk forms in Maine River. So why did I think that was worth talking about? Because remember how there's been lots of articles about aliens recently,
right.
And one of the articles said the reason we haven't found them is because they're here but we don't recognize them.
Right, we can't detect them.
And I thought, that's probably it right there.
Maybe. It's
Might
just a
be.
giant ice disk.
It could be an alien.
So ice disk
Masquerading as an ice
apparently
disk.
is evidence for aliens.
Yeah,
Well, now that's not what the article says.
I know that, but that's still
Yeah.
pretty well what everyone else, you know, who's been talking about aliens has
So
been
we could
saying.
be sitting on them and we wouldn't even know it because
Yeah.
we don't know how to
yep,
detect
there's
them.
one right
there's an
there.
alien down there. So,
There could be even someone beside you in the audience. You just never know. They might be masquerading as a human. Okay, then the other fluff and stuff item, this is quite a funny one, actually. So this
That's fluff, all right.
This is one of our staff members. He's in the outreach department.
Yeah.
In fact, he's the one that goes out with me on speaking engagements and helps organize that. So he's getting married in March. Yes,
He's
March.
coming up here.
He's getting married in March. And anyway, so he and his fiancée and
His
her
fiancée
sister,
yeah. And they're from Mississippi, so they don't see
they
snow.
don't see snow.
So they're pretty excited
Cody's
to
from
see
New
snow.
York, though. Cody's from
Cody
New York.
is, yeah.
So they decided to build a snowman, and they did that. And then when he came home from work on
Well,
Monday,
wait a minute. Explain more about.
You got to explain the snowman.
You got to explain
well,
the
yeah,
snowman.
it's in the
Oh,
audio.
it's in the video?
So,
Okay, all right.
Here, we'll show you. This was it actually got on Fox News, local Fox News. Then it got on Fox and Friends. Then it got into USA Today, and
It just went viral.
it went viral. I posted it on my Facebook. It got over 3,300 shares on my Facebook. Let me show you the item on Fox News.
Triple stack of snowballs in northern Kentucky has a lot of character, much like the people who built it. This snowman was packed with purpose by Cody Lutz, his fiancée Lucy, and his soon-to-be sister-in-law, because this weekend marked several new snow experiences for two of the newest Petersburg homeowners.
We were playing in the snow. She's from Mississippi, so this is the most snow she's ever seen in her entire life. I'm from Buffalo, so this is no big deal. I love the snow.
Lutz loves it so much that he took snowman building to the extreme, using a massive tree stump as the base for their top hat topped creation.
I went to work on Monday, and I came home to this on Monday night, which is, the irony is pretty funny.
Someone saw the soon-to-be Lutz family's creation and tried to fracture Frosty with the front end of their truck. but they quickly realized their mistake when the plowed away snow showed Frosty's roots.
Instant karma, Ken. It's hilarious. What goes around comes around in good ways and bad ways. So I guess probably everybody learns a valuable lesson here from Frosty.
There may be a couple lessons in here. Believe in karma and smile through the tough times. Frosty sure is.
I think he got the last laugh for sure.
It was interesting because Cody actually used the name karma,
Yeah,
sort of a play
instant karma, he said.
on words,
Right.
karma,
Yeah.
and I think that's what got in the headlines. When I posted on my Facebook, people thought it was funny and hilarious, and then there were all these super spiritual period. He shouldn't have responded by saying karma. He should have used it and have it a biblical response and all sorts.
Instant judgment or something.
Yeah.
Well, he did say in the USA Today article, I think he said, I guess as a Christian, I would say you reap what you sow, and so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was sort of a joke and
Yeah.
a play on
the
words.
moral of all this is whatever you build, make sure you have a good, solid foundation.
Yeah.
That's why here at Answers in
Yeah.
Genesis, we like to have a solid
Yeah.
biblical
That's right.
foundation.
And I'm sure there's a car that found out that chance random processes don't improve your vehicle.
I wonder
right?
if the owner of that car who was thinking, I'm going to ram this thing.
Oh,
I wonder if
my.
he's seeing this all over the news, like, boy, I hope they don't see my car, my
Yeah.
truck.
He
So,
doesn't want to come
One
forward.
last little thing.
Here.
So it went viral and it got on
was
the
all over the
news
place,
and
yeah.
all over the place. And so Cody sent me a video, and now we have a problem.
You need to understand, he's a character.
Yeah, he is a character. He's got a sense of humor. Some of the people on Facebook didn't understand his sense of humor. He'd make a good Australian. Okay, so this is what he sent me.
So I have to wear these sunglasses now whenever I'm in public, just trying to go to Kroger and get my lunch. No, sorry, I can't talk right now. Thank you. No, I appreciate the love. Yeah, thank you very much. Oh, yeah, good to see you, ma'am, as well. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. No, please, people, I'm just trying to buy my lunch, all right?
So there you are. All right. I thought that was funny.
It was funny.
Okay, one more
It
thing
is
from you, Georgia.
Okay, so we have a brand new resource, brand new book here at Answers in Genesis, and this was written by Dr. Jennifer Rivera. She came on staff a little over about a year and a half ago now. She leads a lot of our workshops and explore days here at the Creation Museum. She is a forensic scientist by training, and so she wrote this book called The Work of Your Hand, and it's a great book for kids and parents to read to them, to really teach them about how they are uniquely made right down to their fingerprints, okay? And so the book goes through and explains the different kinds of fingerprints, and there's tons. What I really like about it too is that in the back, there's a lot of different activities that you can do with your kids with their fingerprints and their thumbprints to make all kinds of artwork and things in the back of the book. So it's a really great book for learning about God's wonderful design of each and every one of us uniquely.
I can't wait until one of our grandkids, one of Bodie's children, gets hold of this with an
I
ink
know.
pad and puts their fingerprints in here, but I'll guarantee
It'll be on the walls, the carpet,
I can't help you there,
refrigerator.
Hey, by the way, we've created a discussion now about karma on my Facebook. And
That's spelled C-A-R-M-A, right?
hey, Calvin Smith, who heads up our office in Canada, we have an office in Canada, and he said, hi, and please remind all your Canadian watchers to visit our Canadian AIG Facebook page,
Yes.
which is good. But you know what he put? Hi, Georgia and Brody.
Oh, spell check.
He's in our Canadian
ya.
office, and he can't even
Brody.
spell your name. Brody.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Newborn insects trapped in amber show first evidence of how to crack an egg. So basically, they found these in amber that is supposedly from 130 million years ago, and it shows newborns, eggshells, and what are called egg bursters that they use to get out of the egg. And they know that they're from green lacewings because they match how green lacewings look today.
This is an incredible article, because what it's saying is green lacewings have always been green lacewings.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
think about
that.
that.
That would be like a living fossil.
Would you have ever
what it
thought
is.
that lacewings would always stay lacewings?
I would from a biblical perspective, but evolutionists wouldn't from their perspective.
Yeah,
And
you
they
would
say-
expect change, but
Such behavior is common among modern relatives.
Imagine that.
Wow.
Yeah, and the fact that they can even look at this and recognize it. And these structures too don't last very long, like the eggshells and the egg burster. They disappear very quickly after the eggs have hatched. So the fact that you even see them means they were preserved very quickly,
It had to be
which
quick,
you
yeah.
would expect as a result of the flood.
Right. Yeah, and that's what this does. It goes back to the flood. It's not 130 million years old. That's just a mistake. Imaginary
thousand.
time, we call that.
And of course, they say it's, it goes back 130 million years, as you say, and this is all part of evolution. They say, nonetheless, this new discovery in fossil green lake-wings shows the existence 130 million years ago of a sophisticated hatching mechanism. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's
So,
always
so,
had,
they, so they took the egg and they cracked it.
Oh,
That's what they did.
No one got that.
They cracked it. That,
Yeah.
Wow. That made news headlines.
No one got the pun.
Okay.
But
oh, they cracked.
yeah.
They cracked
I
it.
get it.
Okay, barely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that
But one
cracks
of the
me
things
up.
too they said is that, well, okay, so when evolutionists find something like this that seems to be the same as it is today, okay, so how do they explain it? Because in their view, things should have evolved and changed significantly. But what do they say? Well, a life event as crucial as hatching would have remained quite stable during evolution. So, oh no, not this. This wouldn't have changed. This would have
Right.
remained
Yeah.
the same.
They call this
Really?
stasis. When something doesn't change, they say,
Yeah.
well, that's stasis. It didn't change, therefore it's evidence of evolution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Everything is.
Yeah.
It's
Because if it had
incredibly
changed, it
odd.
would have been evidence of evolution. And if it
Right.
didn't change, it's evidence of evolution.
Exactly.
Think about that.
I know.
I mean, I've actually read books where they said, well, we know evolution's true because we're here.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, look around the room.
And that's so arbitrary.
tell
We
that.
can turn around and say, well, of course creation happened. Look around the room.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
Say the same thing.
shows an arbitrariness behind
Hey,
it.
somebody's got a better pun on here than the one you just gave. They said my karma ran over my dogma.
Yeah, and
That's a better one.
And one of our friends in Australia put on here about that car running into the snowman, stumped again.
Stumped again.
Oh,
there
that
we
got a
go.
better laugh than yours,
Those are
baby.
good.
And
Good
there's
on
someone on here called Hannah who said, hey, that book's illustrated by someone called Hannah.
Oh yes, the illustrator is Hannah Jane Lewin. So she
Yeah.
worked with Jennifer to create this book. So I want to give her credit too, because they did.
Somebody said, Bodie hasn't been doing enough puns lately. Do at least 2 more Dr. Bodie puns. Didn't? Oh, he's cracking the jokes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Cracking me up.
Yeah.
All right, so we got to speak about men in this next one. Traditional masculinity deemed harmful could lead to sexual harassment, medical group says. So this is the American Psychological Association that basically says traditional masculinity is not only harmful, but leads to homophobia and sexual harassment.
See, this is all to do with this. If you're going to stand up as a man and say that homosexual behavior is wrong, gay marriage is wrong, transgender is wrong, well, suddenly, that's traditional masculinity,
Right, you're
and
wrong.
you got a major problem, and this needs to stop. And it's all to do with this whole business. If you disagree with the gender revolution, so you're homophobic, and
Right.
It's an anti-man movement.
It really
what
is.
it is. If you got muscles, oh, well, that's so bad. That's so evil of you. No, actually, that's called prejudice.
Yeah.
That's what it is. When you look at someone and judge them by the way that they look, that's classical prejudice.
Now, here's a great example of it. It's an article, and they talk about there are men that have abused women and so on, and that's true.
That's true.
Right?
That's 'cause of sin.
And there are men that have lorded it over women in ways that are in a despotic
shouldn't
way
have,
and
right.
so on, and that's wrong too. But here's the problem. They don't have a biblical foundation.
Right.
And so what we've got to do is understand that sin has affected our world. Sin affects men, but also affects women.
women,
It's interesting. Remember, as a result of sin, what did God say? That your desire shall be to your husband, he says to
Right.
the woman, and he shall rule over you. And when you read the commentaries on this, it seems to be saying that because of sin, now men are going to want to despotically lord it over women, and women are going to want to take the place of a man and usurp the authority of a man. And so sin is going to affect both. But notice that there's a big anti-man movement right now, but if you would dare say, well, the feminist movement has a problem and they're trying to usurp the authority of a man, suddenly you're the bad person.
Right.
Because right now, the politically correct thing to do is to be against males.
Right.
Not against
And God
females.
has designed men and women differently, and there are different traits and different characteristics that they have, and those are good things. And those things can be used for good, or they can be used for evil and bad. And the thing is that I've noticed, and I say this a lot, is that they're really wanting sameness. You know, they want everybody to be the same. Like, they don't want there to be any distinctiveness.
Well, except Christians, they want them a little lower.
Well, yeah, but I mean, as far as the
Right.
gender goes and the gender issue, and so.
Well, we've got to remember when God made man and woman, made Adam and Eve, he gave specific roles to men and women as well. And also, when you read the scripture, you know, as a Christian, for instance, husband loves your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. Now, that's sacrificial love. And so a husband should pour out that sort of love on their wife. And the scripture does say, wives, be submissive to your husbands, but it also says, submit to each other.
To one another.
So you're to submit to each other in the roles that God has
Right.
given us. And he has given us different roles, right? And man was made first, woman was made from the man, and God has given specific roles. And the man is to be the spiritual head of the home. And in a lot of homes, the women have taken over that role and usurping the authority of the man. In fact, we don't have a lot of spiritual leaders as men in our churches like we should do. And so there's major problems there. But this is all tied up with this whole gender movement.
I don't know
and
if
so
y'all
on.
remember, but even last year, one of the terms of the year was toxic masculinity. You know, it's this whole anti-man movement, and it's prejudice against them for being who they are.
Well, you know, and you know, a lot of the television programs they're now producing, they're reflecting this anti-male, anti-man philosophy.
We saw that
see
with the Razor ad recently.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff's been popping up.
Well, there was a lot of controversy
yeah.
about the Gillette Razor ad.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that one's hit. I know it's, stirred up things all over the country. In fact, all over the world, you know, people are fired up about some of that. So.
And then talking about the gender movement, we move to the next article.
Escaping trans la la land, dozens of transgender regretters come out to tell the truth. So this is about a new book called Trans Life Survivors. And it's written by a gentleman who used to be, he even had surgery and everything and to become a woman, and now went back. He detransitioned back to a male and 25 years ago. And so the book is kind of how these people who have went through transgender surgery and all that deeply regret what they've done, and they find it really doesn't help them at all.
We've got a major problem in our culture when you look at this gender revelation. I've said gender revolution. I've said before that when you read Romans 1 starts with, you know, there's the sexual revolution, then there's the homosexual revolution, then it moves on to doing those things which they ought not to do, and women with women, men with men. So now it's the gender revolution. Right. And so we're seeing a progression. It's really Romans 1. It's really God turning people over to their depraved natures. And we're seeing this spiritual sickness. It's just permeating our culture right now.
Well, one thing we've seen out in the culture is if somebody says, hey, I'm a man, I want to become a woman, it is praised by the media, it is supported.
Oh, celebrated by the LGBT movement.
But when you see someone like this who says, boy, that was wrong, this is destroying me, I want to go back, where's the support?
They're attacked.
Where's the celebration? No, I mean, they are severely attacked. What they really need is people to be praying for these guys. You know,
well, it's really inconsistent too, because they have the whole idea of gender fluidity. So if you can be a male and then you want to be a woman and you want to go back to being a male, what's wrong with that? From their worldview, they're not being actually consistent with that.
And we need to be reminded again that when God made humans, he made them male and female. Genesis 1:27. He made them male and female.
Right.
And I'm certainly not saying people don't struggle with this and have genuine issues that need to be dealt with. I mean, they need help. They don't need help becoming what they somehow think in their mind they need to become. That's sin. They need help out of that.
Well, some people do have genuine problems and so on, but there's no temptation that we can't overcome in Christ. But we never heard this in the past in this way in this culture, did we?
No, I mean, you go back 100 years ago, where's all these people saying, hey, I want to transition into a woman or whatever? You didn't see that. This is a product of our modern culture and a modern belief system.
And I believe it is also part of God's judgment on the culture. I mean, you can't keep murdering millions and millions and millions of children in our culture and God stand back and do nothing.
Well, you know, that snowman that Cody Lutz built, it was a man. And it was a masculine snowman because it was able to stop a car. So I hope people don't judge that snowman
Oh, gosh.
in certain ways either.
Yeah, thank you for that, Bodie. Okay.
All right. A protein in mosquito eggshells could be insects' Achilles heel. And so basically what they've discovered is it's called the eggshell organizing factor 1, a particular protein that obviously comes from a gene that when they modify it and change it, the mosquitoes have eggs that don't survive very well. And so they break and they just don't do well. So this could be a way to control these mosquitoes.
I'm cracking up over this one too.
Oh, well, that was actually a good one. So I like that one, so.
Eggshells, mosquitoes this time. So
Yeah.
I mean, this is quite fascinating when you step back and think about what they're trying to do. And this targets specific types of mosquitoes to try to maybe reduce malaria and certain
West
other
Nile
issues.
and a lot of those kinds of things.
Do you realize before the fall, mosquitoes were very good?
Well, they're
I
still
know.
very good in a lot of ways. There's only a few that actually, you know, bite like that.
So did they suck blood
Some of
before
these-
the fall?
Yeah, I mean...
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. What they are, I mean, they're very good pollinators, and certain mosquitoes actually are well known to only pollinate certain things that nothing else really can.
And actually,
So-
there are mosquitoes that suck sap.
Right,
And,
exactly, plant sap.
the female mosquito actually
females
needs
that bite you.
hemoglobin for reproduction. So maybe they got it from plants originally.
There's a sort of a plant form of hemoglobin, so it's possible that's somehow that
Yeah, ever
transition.
since the fall and the flood
Right.
and things have been disrupted, you know. it could
So
be
we don't
that.
want to kill all mosquitoes. We don't want to think that they're all bad, and that's why this particular technology might be good because it only targets specific ones that are known to transmit disease. Because the gene's only in those; it's not in other types.
I mean,
of
there's
mosquitoes.
other methods to control this too. You know, think of bats or dragonflies or purple martins. Now, I know purple martins don't.
You
eat
know
as
the
many as
method
some
we
people
use?
say, but that's one way.
Yeah. That's the method
That
we
pretty much
use.
targets the females, I think. So.
Oh, okay. We got another pun on here. I didn't even know mosquitoes had feet, let alone heels, because it says Achilles heel.
Did you know it is true though, if my wife and I walk out in an area where there's mosquitoes, they go after her, not
Yep.
me. Because she's got,
They rarely bite.
no,
me.
she's
I know
got
what you
type
mean,
O
but-
blood. And if you've got type O blood, they'll go,
See, I've got type O,
for
and
some
they don't
reason,
go
they
for
go
me.
after you.
The same way with my daughter. She's Asian actually. She's Chinese, and I always say they just love that Chinese blood or something because they will attack her much more than me.
See, they'll go
so.
for my wife, but they won't go for me. And I've
Yeah,
got
I'm
one.
anti-mosquito. So,
Mozzie.
Good
They
for
call
you.
those mozzies in Australia, right?
hey, somebody put an interesting comment here that they and their family visited the Ark on the weekend, and their youngest, who was 3, wanted to know when they would see the boat. It was so big that she didn't reckon. She
They didn't
was looking,
realize
she's looking for a boat.
Yeah.
It's a massive ship. Anyway, I thought that was interesting.
Okay.
That is pretty neat.
Space microbes aren't so alien after all. So this is about bacteria that are actually aboard the International Space Station, and what they've been doing is allowing them to grow, and then when they do bring them back to Earth, analyzing their genetic makeup to see what changes have occurred. And they find they're not evolving into dangerous antibiotic-resistant superbugs. Instead, they just seem to be evolving in ways that help them live in a very stressful environment.
And when they say evolving, all that means is they're adapting, and it's according to the information that's already there, correct?
Right. It's more like natural selection,
But-
speciation, that sort of thing. It's a convolution of terms is really what
But
that is.
here's
It
a
is.
way in which the public are led astray, and children, students can be led astray. Listen to this sentence, and I want you to comment on this, Georgia. While the team found that the bacteria isolated from the International Space Station did contain different genes than their earthling counterparts. Did they have different genes?
I find that very hard to believe because genes just don't pop into existence from nowhere. It's most likely that they have variations in the genes or different versions of the genes than the one on Earth had. It's possible they do have different species of bacteria, so it's possible they're swapping genetic information. Sometimes bacteria can do that, so it's called horizontal gene transfer, but it's not a new gene, it just got the gene from another bacteria that was there. So
And see, that's how they indoctrinate and brainwash kids in the public schools, because they'll say, look, this got different genes and this is evolution, and so they think, oh, it must be. But when you actually look into what's really going on, you realize there's no new information.
Right.
no, just
And none of these bacteria up there are alien. They came from Earth. That's where
right.
they came from. So
And they're dealing
stuff
with
like that.
radiation, they're dealing with microgravity, they're dealing with lack of ventilation. So
Right.
that's what bacteria are designed by God to be master adapters. I mean, when you think about it, they live almost everywhere on this planet. There's microbes everywhere, and so they do serve very beneficial things
Yeah.
for mankind
So-
and all living
Now,
things.
God created bacteria with the ability to live in varied environments,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, I like why they're doing this research. You know, a lot of astronauts, they go through a lot of training. They're very healthy, you know, so they can deal with this. What
Right.
they're doing is they're looking at how do bacteria change? How do they interact in these types of environments in light of possible future space travel, of taking civilians and people up, you know, as tourists and that sort of
Right.
thing? How might it affect them who may not have as good of an immune system and things like that? So I understand the research. I think it's neat.
Yeah, it's good.
So,
It needs
I
to
do
be
want to
done.
encourage the researchers
Hey,
on this.
somebody came up with a great scientific theory here as to why mosquitoes are attracted to my wife instead of me. They say because she's very sweet.
Yeah, I would agree with
I'll
that.
have to tell
Aw.
her. Somebody else here said that snowman on the stump gave the car an excellent shellacking.
Okay.
All right.
Wow, you
Hey,
got two
beat
in there.
that
That's
one,
pretty
Bodie.
good.
Come
There
on.
we go.
All right. Planned Parenthood billboards brag about killing babies. I had an abortion and I'm not apologizing. So these are actually being targeted in the state of Iowa, which recently just tried to get a heartbeat bill passed, which means you can't abort a baby after a heartbeat is detected. It's currently
This is
blocked
Planned Parenthood,
by a
right?
judge there. Yes, and so they have several different ones that basically try to normalize abortion and say, hey, I did it, no big deal.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to do. They're just trying to say, yeah, abortion's good. It's a great thing. It's part of health care.
Right.
And
What-
it's not.
One of the participants in regard to this campaign said she wants conversations about abortion to be as easy as talking about a colonoscopy. Do you realize how sick our culture is? When murdering a child in a mother's womb, they said is no different than having a colonoscopy. I mean, that's a sick culture.
Yeah, I mean, this is child sacrifice. They're thinking of themselves first, sacrifice a child so they can have a better life. And they're open about that. You know, one of the people featured on a billboard said that they admitted that she put her life first when she was aborting her unborn baby.
Yeah, she says, I will not apologize for putting my life first. And we've always said, abortion is child sacrifice to the goddess self. You know, think of the Mayans and others that had child sacrifice, and people are horrified by that. And yet it's happening every day
It happens
around the world, every day in America, and it's
And it's
so
more
much
here.
greater than what the Mayans did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think of the Nazis, you know, they could have made the exact same defense. They could have said, well, we were just looking after ourselves first. We'll put the Jews and the Poles and whoever else second.
And why does it stop at unborn babies? If it's all about
Right.
putting yourself first, why can't you kill your infant or your toddler or your child or anyone else for that matter? I mean, that's the I mean, they just don't realize they can't be consistent with that. Is the thing, that idea? They would
You know
never
what? I'll get this for another Answers News. It was on the news just 2 nights ago, and we should talk about it on Answers News here. There's a YouTube channel for children that has these women talking to young
Oh, I've heard of
children about abortion and telling them how good abortion is. Young children on a YouTube channel for children.
How do they talk to the kids about, sorry, we missed you? Oh, man. I mean, what do they do?
Well, they
this is
try to
terrible.
justify it and saying, and actually that's in the article too, about a woman who said, well, I have children now, and the only way I could have children now is if I would, because I had this baby aborted years ago.
Well, she claims she experienced the joys of motherhood because she aborted one of her babies. In other words, she enjoyed the joys of motherhood because she murdered one of her children. I mean,
It's just.
I mean,
I can't believe. Who would have ever thought we'd even have to talk about this? I did a couple of posts on this on social media, and I said instead of that billboard there, I had an abortion. I'm not apologizing. What they should do is say, I murdered my children. I murdered my child, and I'm not apologizing. I sacrificed my child to the God of self, and I'm not apologizing, because that's really what's going on here. But again, it shows you how depraved our culture is.
They're arguing here. I joined the Say Abortion campaign because abortion is normal. Hold on a second. Abortion is not normal. I mean, the person making this statement, everybody in their family line before them, abortion was not part of it.
Right.
Otherwise, they wouldn't exist. They wouldn't be here. So it's new because of them doing that within their family.
So, Bodie, let me tell you what people, what the atheists do on my social media when I make posts about this. They say, oh, wait a minute. What about all the children that God murdered at the flood?
Well, everyone is a sinner, and God has every right to judge people, number one.
And everyone's under the judgment of death anyway because of sin.
We all are because of sin. That's right. But see, God is a righteous judge. So, I mean, there's a huge difference here between God being a righteous judge and enacting a judgment. But God also sent a means of salvation through the ark. All people had to do was be on the ark. Did people or their parents, did they take them? I mean, how many children are actually alive at the flood? I mean, if people were wicked and violent, every thought was evil all the time, why would they care about their children? They would probably killed them all off by the time of the flood, even their own parents. I mean,
and the other thing to remember is an atheist, right, who has no basis for any moral judgments, who says they don't believe in God, is making a moral judgment against the God they don't believe in.
Well, yeah, that's kind of funny too, when you step back and think about that. See, in an atheistic worldview, why not kill people?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not go murder other people? Why not rape them? Why not just destroy them in any fashion?
If
there's no God who sets what's right and wrong, from an atheistic perspective, that's what that teaches. Why not do anything?
The other thing I've often said is this. They always say as well, oh, how can you believe in a loving God? Look at all the death and suffering in the world. All this horrible death and suffering then is God's fault. Well, wait a minute. If you're an atheist, you believe life evolved, then it's evolution's fault. Then why do you believe in evolution? And why do you exalt evolution? Because it produced all this death and suffering.
Yeah.
And yet we know death and suffering is a judgment because of our sin, but God provided salvation in
Someone
Christ.
on here said, well, if abortion is part of healthcare and so normal, then why do they have to tell everyone they did it and won't apologize for it? If it's just normal.
They know it's wrong.
Just like if it's a colonoscopy, you don't apologize for having a colonoscopy, I mean, that's what she's saying is if it's normal, then why do you feel like you have to? Because it's not normal, right? That's why they have to do it. And they know that in their heart of hearts. They just choose to deny that.
Choose to suppress it.
This is just the start of a campaign by Planned Parenthood. They're going to be putting these billboards up in a number of different states, and Iowa is just at the beginning here. But they said more billboards are going to be in other cities, including Ames, Cedar Falls, Cedar Rapids, Council Bluffs, Iowa City, and then they're going to go on from there. I mean, how many children have been killed by abortion in America so far since Roe versus Wade? 65 million?
Yeah,
60 million.
65 million.
You want to get the details?
It makes what Hitler did at the Holocaust pale in comparison.
Pales in it.
I know. Yeah.
Yep.
So just one more thing, we forgot to mention this when we were talking about DNA, a lot about DNA.
Yep.
So I have a DVD called The Wonder of DNA, and it talks about the amazing complex design that we find in DNA. So you can get this online or in our bookstore here. And someone else asked here, do we have a gem and mineral exhibit here at the Creation Museum? And the answer is yes, we do. So you can come and see a lot of different
gemstones.
By the way, we should just add in regard to that other the news item we were just doing. The Bible makes it very clear that we're different to animals. We're humans made in the image of God.
Right.
And so when you talk about DNA, the DNA you get from your mother and your father, that unique combination at conception, you're 100% human, 100% made in the image of God, and a unique combination. No new information is added. That's why abortion is killing a human being.
All right, well, that's all we have time for today. So we'll finish this up on Monday, and we'll have some new ones for you too. So see you then.
Blessings.